insider from The Athletic. Mike Sando joins us now here on 105.3 The Fan. And a good afternoon, sir. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, we're doing pretty good. You know, Cowboys coaching staff coming together. We're all still very much reeling from this Luca Doncic trade, so that's kind of hanging over us a little bit, Mike. I'm sure you caught wind of this.
Yeah, I had NFL people who called me, too. We couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm sure you've hashed it from a million different angles, but it seems weird.
It is.
The secrecy of it was the interesting part of, you know, almost like you're trying to get this thing done before it could go off the rails by having too many people know about it, whether that's players or fans or something. Didn't it kind of feel like that? It was like when a team leaves for another city, they move in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
They kind of, you know.
Yeah. Well, Bob Irsay, yeah.
That's what it kind of felt like to me. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't follow the NBA.
Sure.
Did he lose? Is it true that he can't get the same contract now? Is that true?
Yes.
He lost the max, the super max.
But can he still do amazingly well money-wise with the Lakers? Or no, they're bound by a limit that cost him a bunch of money?
Oh, he's going to do very, very well.
He's going to do well, but it's significantly less than what he was going to get with the Mavs.
Fascinating. There's more to this story than we know, and we're not sure what it is, right?
I believe so. Yeah, I think that's well said, Mike. Now, what can you tell us about the Athletics' new Daily Game Connection Sport Edition on February 9th? What's this all about?
So, do you ever play the Connections in the New York Times app?
No, I don't think I'm smart enough for that.
Game. So it's kind of an interesting concept. I happen to play it. I got a little group chat going with my sister and brother-in-law where we compete every day with the Wordle. Maybe you've heard of the Wordle.
Yeah, Wordle. Of course.
The Word. So inside, next to the Wordle, there's something called Connections, and there'll be 16 words, and then there's four groups. So 4 words fit together. But some of the words kind of have the meanings could overlap a little, so you could make a mistake. So you have to think in your head. And then some of them are harder to get, some of them are easier to get. And if you can do them in the most difficult to easiest order, that's even
better.
So they have this now for sports. So you would basically, same sort of thing. There might be team logos in there. There might be some team names. There might be maybe a nickname for a player, but that also could be something else. And so it doesn't come together so easily that you're done in 2 seconds. I mean, sometimes it might if you really just had a good day, but you kind of look at it, but it's only going to take you a few minutes, so it's not like you got to be there like your grandpa with the crossword puzzle for 2.5 hours, you know, and fall asleep in the chair. I like it. Yeah.
Mike Deese, you know, you have that connection of around the league, but I know you have a connection with the Pacific Northwest. Tell us about Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah.
And kind of you know, what you remember and what people are saying about him and what, you know, we need to know about him as a head coach.
So I think Pete Carroll had 4 offensive coordinators. He got there in 2010 in Seattle. And at first it just wasn't a very good fit. Jeremy Bates was more of a pass guy. Pete wants balance. And so we had Darrell Bevell was there. And, you know, Schottenheimer, of all the coordinators that were there, Schottenheimer was far and away the highest offensive points per game. He was about 26, and the others were about 22. Now, you could say, okay, did he just hit it right when Russell Wilson was in his kind of prime? That could be part of it. The complexion of their team changed some, too, where they weren't quite as good on defense, so maybe they had to be a little bit more aggressive. But I always thought that statistically, he clearly had the best run with Russell Wilson of any of the coordinators there. And after he left, it wasn't long before it was kind of going downhill. So I give him some credit for that. I think he was pretty well thought of. You know, I think the thing about Schottenheimer, he's what head coaching candidates used to be. They used to be 50 years old, and they've, in his case now, he didn't spend a bunch of time in college, but they used to have a bunch of time in college. They have some years as a position coach. You'd have some years as a coordinator, and then you get your chance. And now it feels like the coaches it's almost like the drafted quarterback. You'd rather take your chance on Drake May than have, you know, Kirk Cousins or whatever, even though there's a good chance that Kirk Cousins is going to be better than Drake, right?
Right.
And so there's almost this appeal of the unknown of what the young guy could be versus we feel like, well, Brian Schottenheimer's been around time. He's probably a solid coach. Right?
Right.
And that's an interesting component to me. You know, I think that he was well thought of, though, had a good run there, and I think he was solid. But I don't think anybody was feeling like, they were, oh my gosh, did you see what they were doing, this thing that had never been done before?
Sure.
It was more just solid.
Sure.
It's Mike Sando here with you on The Fan. Between him and then their new OC, Clayton Adams, it's pretty clear they want to get back to running the football. What do you think of generally trying to run the ball more in today's game?
Well, the pendulum's swinging back. I think there was a period 5-6 years ago where the offenses figured out that defensive coordinators were number one thing, we got to stop the run. That has been the focus in the league for 100 years. And there was a period there where the offensive guys were like, okay, if you're going to do that, we're just going to pass on first and second down all the time. And there was remember, people thought this was the way it's going, and there was huge explosive plays, and scoring went up and all of this. The defenses got smart to that, and now, even Patrick Mahomes is here not because they're making a bunch of huge plays. They're having to sustain drives. So I think the offensive guys now are saying, hey, we want to have a run game now to be able to because they're playing pass defense. They're playing pass defense all the time. Now, the kicker on top of that is if our quarterback's a run threat too, now we really got something because the numbers game changes, and that's what's so difficult about stopping Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley. Those guys are great backs on their own, but there's also a chance that quarterback's going to take it and run too. So I think that's something I would love to have as well, even though you don't really want a quarterback who has to run. I would love to have the good back, the coordinator who wants to run the ball, and the quarterback who's a dual threat. Man, that seems like to me where it should be headed.
Mike, you had an interesting piece in your Sando's Pick Six about the Eagles and their offseason, and specifically free agency compared to other Super Bowl teams. One thing we criticize the Cowboys about is they just don't seem to be players in free agency. What stood out to you when you were kind of researching that? How difficult would it be for a team to make a Super Bowl run if they are going to just say, hey, we're not going to play in free agent waters?
Well, I think you can do it, but I think really it's just about what are all of your ways you can improve your team. It doesn't mean to do stupid stuff. I think Jerry Jones has been around long enough to know he lived that world where they charged on the credit card and then had the big reckoning. It doesn't really happen as much. I mean, the Saints are in a bad spot, but they had a lot of money in players who weren't good. I think if you have good players, I think you can push the envelope more than the Cowboys have. Now, we could get 5 cap guys together here and make them all be anonymous, and they could tell you that the Eagles cap has some issues and they have less flexibility in the future. But I think as a Cowboys fan, you'd say, okay, I would put up with that. I want this feeling like we're pushing all times. There's almost kind of an insecurity with the Eagles where they're just like – and it feels like Jerry is kind of a made man. He's got his gold jacket, and that's why when Steven does the air quotes around the drought, it's kind of like, hey, we're the standard here, But I think as a fan or you're watching this, you want to feel like they've taken a couple more swings, and you'd put up with a miss here or there. When I live in the Seattle area, there was times when they traded for Percy Harvin and it didn't work out. Right. But they were always trying something. And they got Michael Bennett. They got Cliff Averill. Those were the pass rushers they needed to get over the top and win a Super Bowl. And then they missed on, like I said, Percy Harvin or Jimmy Graham. They probably overpaid for it. Didn't pay the dividends, but they were trying. I think as a fan base, you want to have more evidence probably right now that Jerry's on the edge of his seat, like he's trying to get a second gold jacket. Yeah. Don't you want? I think they could convey that better. Because they've done solid in the drafting. They have a good team, and for 3 years there, they had the second-best record in the league. They went 12-5 3 times. But do you feel the striving? And they don't convey that. So I think two-pronged there. You could do a couple more things in free agency, and then you could just seem like you're more disappointed than you are.
It's Mike Sando of The Athletic with us here in the nation. Myles Garrett, a local legend here in DFW. Requesting a trade. How do you see this playing out?
Well, I mean, there's a chance that something could happen because when a player goes out publicly like that, it's on the table. I just don't know that. I think they have actual challenging cap issues on their team. So if they can somehow get out of the Watson payments, I don't know how they can do that, but he had a second injury. Is there some kind of protection? They could maybe be in a different world to do that, but how could you get rid of clearly the best player on your team? That'd be a hard one for me. I mean, he is a needle mover on that team. So be interesting to see how maybe he's watching the Luca stuff happen.
Yeah, exactly.
He's trying to take some agency here for his future and say, hey, we've had a bad run here, and they just extended the coach and the GM. We don't have a quarterback. So he's trying. I get it.
Yeah.
Do you think the Eagles have a chance
To get him?
No, not to
win
get
the Super
him.
Bowl.
Winning the Super Bowl. Are you picking the
Yeah.
Eagles? Where do they have the advantage?
That's two different questions, because I thought there was a better than 50% chance the Bills would beat the Chiefs. I can see a complete pathway for the Eagles to do it, but you just, in the end, you can't pick against the team that wins all the games. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, it'll be a close game, and he'll find some way to do it late in the game. But I can totally see a pathway for Philly because on the lines of scrimmage, I think they have an advantage. Their defense could possibly be a little bit better than the Chiefs' defense. Just what are you going to do? How are you going to pick against Mahomes? It would be foolish at this point.
The coach. You feel like that Kansas City has the better coaches, though, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
overall,
probably overall. Yeah. Probably. Yes. I would say that. I do think that Vic Fangio is good.
Yeah.
I think he's been a very good addition for him, for them. But I feel like Spags in a big moment is more likely to come up with the perfect call.
Right.
I feel like Vic Fangio is the body of his work over the whole season, but I'm a little nervous in 2 minutes. I'm a little nervous in certain situations.
Yeah.
So that's why I think Kansas City is sort of almost uniquely positioned to win these games the way they win them, because the quarterback can run or pass. He has a great feel for the game, and he's going to do just the right thing. He's going to, and then they've got the coaching stability there. They didn't just hire Kellen Moore. These guys have been together for 10 years, 7 years. They know what to do. They know how to use them. This is a perfect Mahomes running that 4th and 1 in the first half from their own 38. The perfect play call with quick tempo. Stuff just doesn't happen.
Right.
And so I do think that Kansas City just has the situation. Even Chris Jones, not an every down, all-out effort guy.
Right.
But guess what? When it's on the line or in a playoff game, he's top 5 defensive player in the league. So they have a bunch of great situational masters, I think, on their team that lets them pull these things out.
Mike, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you, man. An absolute treasure of NFL insights. Thank you for joining us here, and enjoy your week in New Orleans.
Hey, thank you.